So the remote over here, if any presenter wants to use, can use it and can move forward or backward the slide. So it's being
Well, I hope Shailesh Anandji has provoked some more questions and thoughts in you. And so now we will move into our first session. And it's live to eat or eat to live. Our diet and its science aspect related to health, spiritual progress. You know, we eat all the time, and I wonder how many times we really think what we are eating, and also we really, eat, and I don't know when we figure our tongue wants it or our stomach wants it. So that'll be interesting. Our next speaker is Dr. Saroj Bahl. She's an associate professor at the University of Texas School of Dentistry here. She received a PhD in nutrition from Delhi University, India. She has received several honors and awards for teaching excellence, including the prestigious John McGovern Award more than once. She has also been listed in Who's Who's among America's teachers more than once. Her other accomplishments include several scientific and educational publications in peer-reviewed journals, as well as 400 presentations to professional and community groups. She has co-authored a book entitled Nutrition Care of HIV Positive Person. She is a holistic health practitioner and has completed a training course in Ayurveda theory, and she has served as the president of Vedantic Society in Punjabi country. So let us all welcome Dr. Bahl.
So minimize the whole folder. That whole folder is mine. Get out of it.
Okay, it's important for me to learn the technology before I get started. First of all, I'd like to thank the organizers for asking me again. I spoke last year and I didn't know that much about this organization, and every time I listen to the review, I kind of feel like my own thinking very much fits with it, so it's perfect. Anyway, my husband had suggested I start with a joke, and I always listen to my husband's suggestions seriously. He's here. Anyway, so I wanted to share this joke with you, which fits with my food kind of background. There was an 85-year-old couple, and they died together. Rarely happens. And they went to heaven, and St. Peter, who was standing at the pearly gates, said, "Okay, it's good you both are here. Now let me give you a round, let me give you a tour of this heaven, place called heaven that you've been hearing about." So he took him to the area where there were all the drinks. And he says there's some margaritas, soft drinks, pina colada, whatever you like. And the guy said, "Well, I'm not supposed to eat this. I've been a heart patient all my life." And the wife looked at him and said, "No, honey." And then he said, "Okay, let me take you to the next area." And then he took him to the next area, and there's all this buffet food, just like we all are used to. So much food around us, right? And so he said, "You can have anything you want here. And no money, no charge for it. This is heaven, remember?" So the guy said, "My God, all these things, I'm not supposed to eat them. I may get high cholesterol, I may die of high blood pressure, I may get a stroke, this is not right." So St. Peter said, "No, you don't get all those things here. This is heaven, remember?" So then he went to the next area, and there were all these desserts. He says, "Wow, all these desserts, you can try anything you want." He says, "Well, no, the desserts are not good for me." He says, "No, but remember, this is heaven." So then he took them to the golf course and said, "You can play all you want, here are the greens." And he says, "My God, and all this, and I don't have to pay any money? I don't even have my checkbook." He says, no, you're not supposed to bring anything to heaven." So finally he said, looked at his wife, got very upset, and said, "If it wasn't for your bran muffins, low-fat food, food, I would be here a lot sooner. This is the way our thinking is. We kind of feel like we should be able to eat. If I had to talk to any of my patients, by the way, the focus of my presentation is kind of today, as I was asked, a little bit more spiritual and a little bit more holistic. But I want to just share with you, this is the thinking. If I could give a diet to my patients that now I don't work with physically, but I work more through a remote, my dentists are the ones, I teach dentists and doctors, and they are the ones who convey the message through me. But if I had to tell my patients, you can eat anything you want, everybody will be happy, right? But unfortunately, that doesn't work on this planet Earth anyway. So-called title that I have, live to eat or eat to live, and when I first got that, I said, I don't know what they mean, but anyway, let me give it a try. Okay, this quote came from Benjamin Franklin, eat to live, don't live to eat. Benjamin Franklin was one of the founding fathers of USA. He was a noted polymath. If you didn't know the word polymath, it is someone who has knowledge of a lot of the disciplines. And as it's said in his autobiography, few men who could compare to Benjamin Franklin, this is someone else talking about him, virtually self-taught, he excelled as an athlete, a man of letters, a printer, a scientist, a wit, an inventor, an editor, and a writer, and he was probably the most successful diplomat in American history. Well, if you think about all these things that a person could do, you can imagine that he obviously thought he had several purposes. If we could even have one of these when we are growing up, that would be wonderful. As adults usually, or young kids, you're usually told by your parents, like I'm sure you can relate to it. If I appear a little too blunt and rash, forgive me. But most people living here, most Indians who came here want their kids to be a doctors, right? Number one profession. With Obamacare, that might change. But anyway, nevertheless, that is one of the first and most foremost. Next comes maybe law or engineering, I don't know what order. But anyway, we decide the purpose of our kids without realizing that they come with their own inherent potential. Should we not recognize that? So anyway, had somebody done that to Benjamin Franklin, imagine what would have happened. Now I'd like to share some other leaders with you. Other great world leaders, and what did they have in common? Well, Mahatma Gandhi. Everybody knows him in this room and maybe the worldwide. And he was one of those people who his purpose was defined as he went around. And he realized that his main purpose was to, as a father of nation, to take India to independence and to he inspired movements for nonviolence, civil rights, and freedom across the world. Abraham Lincoln, 16th President of USA, he was assassinated in 1865. This was 4 years before Mahatma Gandhi was born. So it's almost like the universe decides, okay, one person fought for something, now let's send several more. And then Martin Luther King, who died at the age of 39, and he was a leader in the African American civil rights movement. Finally, and last but not least, Mother Teresa, born in West Germany, but goes and finds Calcutta as her home, and was called Blessed Teresa of Calcutta. And if you read up on her, there's just so many beautiful things written about her. So what did these people have in common? I've just picked 4. It's not like they're my favorites, there's many more. Of course they're very good people, but I'm just saying it's hard to pick favorites among world leaders because they all come with their own purpose. Did anybody come with the same purpose as the other one? Mother Teresa's work is still going on so many years after she's gone and is still doing as well as she did herself. How? Because these people not just performed a purpose in life, they managed to inspire others to continue the work that they started. And so that's what we are here for too. Each one of us, if we imagine we can be a leader in our own right, where we can decide, how did this happen? Let us reflect together for a minute. Was our purpose suddenly given to us the moment we were born? I know that in my case, you're going to be surprised to hear this story, but I'd like to share it today. When I was about 4 or 5 years old, I remembered my past life. Like, we believe in our past life. Not just I remembered my past life, I remembered my name, remembered the town I was in, and I told my parents that, you take me there, my mom is waiting for me, I'm not your child, things like that. And I forgot about all that a little later. But my mother, who's a retired teacher, she kind of felt that she couldn't be saying all this in vain. Let me try to figure out what exactly why does she remember it? Slowly, she discovered that I had an innate desire to study. From the beginning, I was not like most kids sitting and, going and playing. In fact, my dad had to always force me to play. He used to say, it's Saturday, Sunday, go play with your friends. But mostly I love to read. So, and my mother sensed that this might have been my desire for many lives, and here she was, my mom, teacher, so she wanted to give me the best. So many times our purposes are determined or unfold through parents. That's why Bhagavad Gita, which you will be hearing a little bit from me as well as your other speakers, and tomorrow as well, it says that whatever desire you die with, you're born with in the next life to fulfill it. That's how kind Lord is. He gives us the chance to fulfill that. So when I think about this, I feel like all these 4 leaders that I just showed you, they all must have had those inherent tendencies, and they had worked on that purpose for lives. Now what about the others? Do we mean that we just have to keep struggling? I can tell you, I know of many students, I know of many dentists, I know of many doctors who are not sure what they're doing. They come, I've served on the admissions committee, and many of them will come and kind of try to fool me, impress me because they want admissions. Oh, I was an accountant for many years, I decided to become a dentist. So, like purposes keep unfolding. And when I say purpose, it's important to understand that, because that is what determines how you live, how you eat. I mean, eating isn't simply just what we feel like and what is there. Yeah, mostly we do that for convenience. But on the other hand, it's deeper than that, depending on my time constraints, I'll see how much I can share. But there's so many eating disorders in today's world, and these eating disorders they didn't just happen. It happened because of our circumstances together. Okay, so then the next question comes, what is the meaning of life? That is what many of us say. Forget it, this purpose is okay, it's too big and too broad for me, but what is the meaning of my life? Like, I know of a lot of people who operate at that level, and they will say, well, don't give me all this, just tell me, what am I supposed to do? Why am I here? What is life all about? What is the purpose of existence? Why I was here? Why did God even send me? This is a question sometimes children ask you. And they want your direction, your children. Those of you who have little kids, mine have grown up, 37 and 33, and they are beyond my guidance, I think, other than when they're in trouble, then they call me. And so usually when my husband says call them, I say, if everything is good and they're not calling me, everything's fine. But if they call me, then maybe there's some trouble and I need to guide them. Well, that's kind of what we are. We are here just so we can guide people, we cannot live their life for them. Okay, here's a name I introduced, which sounds like oncology, which is a branch of cancer, but this is totally different. This is ontology. Ontology is the philosophical study of the nature of being, becoming, existence, or reality, as well as the basic categories of being and the relations. I thought it's important you know, because in this world there are many, many ontologists, and they have been born and they will still keep coming. I strongly believe Dada Bhagwan was one of them. He tried to unfold all this reality for us. Swami Vivekananda was another. So we've had many, many people, and this started many years back with Parmenides, an ancient Greek philosopher. He was the founder of the Eleatic school of philosophy. And he said, and years back, this is nothing to do with God, but just their thinking, reality is one, change is impossible, existence is timeless, and this was the pre-Socratic philosophy. We've all heard of Socrates. Okay, so thought and pre-Socratic philosophy then is thought and being are the same. This influenced great philosophers such as Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. Aristotle, as you may know, was the teacher of Alexander the Great. You remember how Alexander the Great, when he died, he said, keep my hands open, let the world see I'm not taking any of my riches, my greatness, my fame with me. And that is the way it is. We leave everything right here. but what we leave most is some seeds of inspiration for future people to follow. So what is the meaning of my life? That's the question. Okay, and that's something that we struggle all our lives sometimes. I mean, even our children now are coming up with these questions. I know of 30-year-olds, 20-year-olds struggling with that. One of the most satisfying part of my job and what I see my purpose is not to be just a teacher, which I have been for almost 40 years, but I have 40 years at UT, pretty soon will be completed right here in Houston. But what I see is I'm able to change their thinking. And many of those students who have year after year selected me as the best teacher, and I'm very fortunate, all credit goes to God, I'm not taking any credit for it, but it happens because, not because I taught them something, that anybody can do, the internet can do it too. It's how I managed to change their thinking pattern to be a little bit more positive, a little bit be more focused, and see what they are here for, what do they want to do. And many times it's almost like a light bulb that goes out in their head and they say, Dr. Bahl, you really showed me what I should do. Like yesterday I just finished my whole course, and as soon as I got back into my room, on the computer, there were a few emails from my students, this is beyond the evaluation, where they were saying, unfortunately, all good things come to an end, and so did your course. And I said, surely I didn't want the course to teach you forever, but I was glad it ended, and I could have my own other freedom back. But I mean, these are the kind of things that keep me going every day, that yes, that is the meaning of my life, at least. So, most important, we are wanting to be happy. As Dr. Shailesh Mehta said, we all are going for this quest of happiness. Did you realize there are more than, I don't know, several thousand books written on this subject, happiness, how to get it? I myself have 4 or 5, and obviously I must have been searching too. So we all are searching, we are always searching. And what His Holiness, the Dalai Lama says is, as I see it, our survival depends on some idea of future happiness. Meaning, happiness is not right now. It's like another 2 years, maybe in my case, like I think, my kids will be married, they'll be gone, my responsibility, which I put in my own head. It's not my responsibility, it's God's responsibility. But that's the way we tell ourselves, that it's my responsibility. So what happens when we die? Then whose responsibility is it? But this is what we do. We put some happiness somewhere in the future and say, I will be happy someday, or I have this disease, when it goes away, I'll be happy. So none of us know how to be happy in this present moment. So factors that contribute to human well-being are these 3, as listed by Dalai Lama. I was reading one of his book, which is Beyond Religion, and it talks about meaning in life. Health, wealth, or prosperity, and friendship. Let's take these one by one. Is health a source of well-being? Now I'm getting into food, which I'm sure you want to hear. It certainly is. When we are in constant pain or discomfort, maintaining a positive attitude can be difficult. If you try telling somebody who is in pain, let's say even if it's knee pain, leg pain, and say, please be happy, well, what will they say? They'll say, remove my pain first, then I will be happy. And then all you hear is this talk of medicines and which medicine and which particular, and this is for people who are lucky. Think about those who are in the hospital with cancer pain and those kind of pains which are very difficult to even bear. So is health an entirely physical matter? This is where holistic science comes in. Absolutely not. Mental and emotional factors are also very, very significant. And how are they significant? Well, if you look at all the eating disorders today, when we say eat to live or live to eat, think about the many, many eating disorders that exist in this society. In fact, obesity now is being regarded as an eating disorder, as well as it has been classified as a disease by AMA, the great AMA, American Medical Association. These were doctors who refused to talk to their patients about obesity. If a patient was 30, 40 pounds overweight, they said, never mind, I'm too uncomfortable about talking to it, I lose my patient. I lose my patient. That was the idea. And yet our Ramayana, our scripture says, Sachiv Ved Guru Teen Jo Priya Bolai Bhai As Raj Dharam Tanti Nahi Hoi Vegai Nas. Ramayana says that when your doctors start lying, and your politicians start lying, which then we know they lie all the time, and your guru starts lying, you're in trouble. That is what Kali is. So with all this framework of what is existing, I don't need to convince you, heart disease is the #1 killer in the Western world. It's also increasing in the Eastern world. I know that more and more people in the richer community in India and other countries are also having the same problem. And psychologically, I like to take you to the psychological, emotional, behavioral realm first. Individuals who use I, me, mine are much more likely to suffer from heart attacks than those who do not. So right there in our vocabulary, we need to teach our kids, your friend is important, your friend's health is important, family health is important. So I, me, and mine. This is what comes from when we are not holistic. So eating for health or eat to live, this is what I'm sure you all want to learn a little bit more about. And I want to share with you just the bare what pertains to my particular presentation, but there's so much here I'm afraid I'll never be able to cover in just the time that's given to me. There are innumerable sites that are trying to teach people to eat healthy. In fact, when Geeta Ben sent me this topic long time back, I went and started researching, where, Google and all the common sites, and I found, okay, my God, Google will have something, of course, I did find, but then I went to my own site, PubMed, which is a scientific site. Interestingly, I found many articles there. So even scientists are now beginning to look at behavior. That's what it shows. And many presentations were entitled, Eat to Live or Live to Eat, either way. So very, very confusing messages. Now, I'm not trying to promote this man's site, please, but Dr. Harman has a site called How to Live for Life. I just asked my PowerPoint guy to pick up some slides, and he did, and I kind of guided him through it. But, this is what people are doing. Dr. Harman has a nutritarian diet. Contrary to popular belief, you don't have to live the rest of your life in pain or in medication. That's good. But then what does he prescribe? We don't know. So that's what it is, that these are not scientifically valid claims, but yet they are there. And guess who's getting exposed to it? Our physicians, the doctors who treat you, because they've never had a course in nutrition. I mean, I've spent 40 years of my life trying to convince the authorities there, and all we have is what I teach is a problem-based learning course, but not really the nutrition they should get. Dentists, yes, they get one course, but I know once I retire, they probably won't get it. So this is what we recommend. If you really want to know the truth about what is exactly important in our health and where can we go, I'm sure you want me to leave you with one site which you can turn to, which will give you the more informed type of information. And that is, we call it Choose My Plate. It used to be called the pyramid. How many of you here have heard of the pyramid? Very popular tool, right? So pyramid has been totally replaced by this. Why? Any guesses? I mean, they keep changing it. Next 5 years, there may be another site. Reason is because the pyramid was confusing. The base almost gave a feeling like you can have 9 to 11 servings of bread. And Americans already eat a lot of starches. So this is where the plate comes in handy, where it shows you a plate is divided into 4 parts, fruits and vegetables on one, salad on another, some legumes and beans on the other, and so on. So, these sites have been constantly updated, and they still will be. The dietary guidelines are going to be revised again in 2015. That's 2 years away from now. And so all of these are determined by our government, USDA. Many people complain to me, United States Department of Agriculture. Many people complain like, why should the government have anything to do with us? Why should the government be telling us what to eat? Well, they do it for a good reason. They have many experts on it. People like me, people like my other former students who are serving on it, dietitians. Also, they have people like doctors who get informed by the dietitians, and so they all work together as a group of experts, and they decide what should be the message to our people. What would make it easy for them to understand? Making a tool easy to understand is equally important. Otherwise, people just get confused and they say, forget it, I don't like those. I remember many years back when I worked as a dietitian in North Dakota. This was just my internship, my training for a year, because I've really never practiced dietetics. I must tell you I have the license and I have the credentials, but mostly I've been a professor. But when I did that internship, I remember working with a dietetic technician who was training me, and she would just go throw a piece of paper at the patient's face and say, here's your diet, and go ahead and read it. And many times when we left, the patient was crying because the patient just saw that these are foods I can't eat. That's all. So many times that doesn't work. People will forget it. So what is the training now? When my dentist or others ask me now, I'll say you first need to do an assessment. Where is the patient? What do they eat? What kind of foods they like? What if they're counseling someone like an Indian patient or a Spanish patient and they just say, here's your diet, and they never see those foods? Would it work? No. Instead, we work with whatever people eat and try to modify it, make it healthier. So this is what the Choose My Plate also teaches. And the 2010 version of dietary guidelines, which is still in place, says maintain calorie balance over time to achieve and sustain a healthy weight. Focus on consuming nutrient-dense foods and beverages. In other words, we always focus on foods that provide you some nutrition. Like, you can go to a restaurant and have a drink, like something like a mixed drink, margarita, pina colada, any of those, my favorites, nothing wrong, but they will provide you 1,000 calories or more. So it's like half your calories for that meal, more than half are gone. So nutrient-dense foods means fruits, vegetables, grains. So if you think back to it, it's all our typical cultural diets that we grew up with, including the United States. And the Mediterranean diet is becoming very popular. The reason for that being that Mediterraneans use a lot of olive oil. And so the concept of you're using too much oil has gone. I mean, no dietitian will tell you anymore that you're using too much oil. That's our own thinking if we are doing it. It's the right kind of oil. Because olive oil and canola oil actually have more MUFA, monosaturated fatty acids, and they are good for you. So I mean, while I can't go to each one of these, but I can refer you to some of these sites if you like. But here's the guidelines continued: foods and food components to reduce, foods and nutrients to increase, and building healthy patterns. The last one is the most important. Do people actually eat these foods the way we want them to? No. They go by the pattern of eating. Morning I have breakfast. We just had some delicious poha. Whoever made it, kudos. My husband said he wants to learn how to make it. So, I mean, we usually go by taste, right? Isn't it? And so our patterns are also based on taste. So are dietitians trying to take away that taste? No. We are simply wanting us to modify it. Was that cooked in olive oil? Was that cooked with less spices? Was that, if the spices bother you, otherwise spices are not a problem. But so those are the questions we need to ask. Can we put more vegetables in it? So there are ways to modify the same food that you cook in a better way. Okay, now I'd like to share with you a little bit about Bhagavad Gita. And I won't give you the shlokas, but before I get there, I want to share with you that I have a spiritual master who's not there in physical form, but he was a founder of Gita ashrams all over the world. He actually was a contemporary of Mahatma Gandhi, Pandit Nehru. He was a freedom fighter, and he decided to become a sannyasi, which we call a renunciate in English. And he took the Bhagavad Gita in his hand and he preached all over. So I had the good fortune of getting to know him, and one of my Guru Bahens here who was also his teacher is here, Molina. And so we were very fortunate to meet him and learn from him about the importance of Bhagavad Gita, even though we know the Bhagavad Gita, but to learn it from a master is another thing. And one of the things my Guruji said is, the Bhagavad Gita starts with Dharam Kshetre Kurukshetre. He said, beta, reverse it. Kshetre Dharam Kuru. Meaning in every field of your life, be righteous. Do the right thing. And I said, Guruji, how do you choose the right thing? Sometimes it's hard. Choices are there. He said, connect to God first. And these days I've been listening to Bhagavad Gita in a song form all throughout my drive to my work, and it is so beautiful, sung by Anuradha Porwal. I'll be happy to give you that reference if you want to. It's also on YouTube. But the Bhagavad Gita is a 700-verse scripture. It is part of the Hindu epic Mahabharata, and And this scripture contains a conversation between Lord Krishna and his disciple and friend Arjuna on a variety of theological and philosophical issues. And in these 700 verses, there is no verse that is without wisdom, because these words came straight from the Lord's mouth, and so they really have to be learned properly. This is what my little Bhagavad Gita, which I keep in front of me all the time, and I carry one in my purse, looks like. And it's inspiring for me just to see his picture. So one time my Guruji had asked me to lecture on this same subject, food, in a conference in India. And so he told me, beta, refer to Bhagavad Gita. So that's what I did. And so chapter 16, and I don't want to give you the shlok, but what it means is, Krishna is telling Arjuna about yoga, and he says yoga is not for those who eat or sleep too much or too little. That gives you the answer for nutrition also right here. All the foods that we talk about, we say that they should be taken in moderation. Then the next verse there is, practicing yoga will vanquish the troubles of one who performs his duties diligently and who is disciplined and balanced in his eating, sleeping, and walking, in waking. Gautam Buddha had a very, very similar kind of teaching. He said that if an instrument is wound too strongly or too loosely, either way it will not function properly. So, I mean, all scriptures have had a way to say the same thing. Here's one that pertains to vegetarianism, and I am a vegetarian, and I always quote this when I go to lectures, and I've spoken on vegetarianism almost all over the world because I'm a vegetarian and a PhD and an RD and an LD, so people think that, okay, at least she will tell us the science behind it. And today I don't need to convince people. We know vegetarianism is much healthy. So if anyone with love and devotion offers me a leaf, flower, a fruit, or water, I will accept it. That's what Krishna is saying. Did he say offer me a fish? Did he say offer me a piece of meat? No. So I mean, this is where I believe the concept of vegetarianism is, that the Lord says offer me fresh and healthy and even water. I mean, anything that is pure to me, because those things have the quality of purity in them. So today, as it was mentioned already, the Ayurvedic diet. Now this was an interesting site. Again, I'm not promoting it. I'm just getting it from Google and here and there, just to kind of show you what's going on in today's world. Well, people have started to think of Ayurveda as a diet. That's the biggest mistake one can make. It's not about eating these foods. It's not about eating a certain type of food. Ayurveda is a way of living. How do you think? How do you sleep? What kind of emotions are in your heart? Are you carrying a lot of baggage? Are you very unhappy? Those things have to be addressed first. And with some of these sites, while they are doing this a little bit, but the real Ayurveda is not being presented the way it should. And that's the same thing for meditation. In fact, one thing I want to share with you before I forget is, in Bhagavad Gita, when I spoke in India in a conference, I used this. You know, I've served as a president of Vedanta temple here, and I read one of Swamiji's books, and Swami Bhavananda has written this beautiful analogy that when you see a picture, those of you who've seen it, of a chariot with 4 horses and Krishna sitting there as the driver and Arjuna sitting inside, have you ever wondered what that meant? Well, different people have different interpretations, but here's what I presented there, which I really like, that the 4 horses represent the 4 kind of yogas: Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyan Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. And we are constantly in our life trying to determine which is better. There are friends of mine who do meditation, and they will say, oh, aapko meditation mein aana chahiye. You know how we try to promote and push each other, you must come try my meditation, it's better. You must try this method. This is what's the story today. We are constantly shopping for religion, shopping for meditation. But the answer is right there in any scripture, and like holistic vision also covers, is to look for a balance. Karma Yoga, duty, it should be done every time. Who guides us in our duty? Our driver, Lord Krishna. If we connect to him, if we ask for his help, otherwise he's sitting and saying, go make your own mistakes and learn from that. So sooner or later we will learn, but we need to actually connect. And those yogas then represent the 4 different ones, and with the pulling of the chariot moves forward. So same way our soul moves forward with any of these 4 yogas, but eventually Swami Bhavananda in his book says they all have to be together. In other words, they all unify. But for Kali Yuga, we say Bhakti is the greatest yoga, of course, because it's easy. You can think of God right now, or the universe. People have started to call it the universe. The universe sends me good messages. Fine, call it universe. It's still God taking care of that universe. So the modern technological world is driven by technology. All of you have your iPhones, iPads, and I know I don't carry a cell phone. When I do, I just switch it off most of the time. My family gets tired of trying to reach me, but I always say this is how we were before, and somehow phones, even in the hands of other people, get to me. Like I say, they're so noisy and they're bothering me. That's why in conferences like that, you tell them to switch it off, right? Okay, so there's a new science that's developing. I want to show you at least the basics there, nutritional genomics, which is one that I probably won't see the end of it. It won't happen in my lifetime, but it's a gene-diet-disease interaction. We are trying to figure out if our genes can be modified with nutrition. Possibly they can, but I think other factors are still important, as we just said. So diet and eating is not just isolated. So there's too many choices today. That's my very important message. It's too many choices. You go to the grocery store, how many foods are there in the aisles? And you end up buying food that you don't want? Happens in my house all the time. There's just the two of us and a little dog, and dog food's different, of course. He takes some of our food. But we buy all this food because it was there. Choices. And so someone's written a book on this, which I picked up from the shelf long time back. It's called The Paradox of Choice by Barry Schwartz. Let's see what people say about his book. It says, today's world offers us more choices, but ironically, less satisfaction. This provocative and riveting book shows us steps we can take towards a more rewarding life. And this entire book is about you have choices for clothes. You go on buy a pair of blue jeans and think about how many brands there are. Ask your children. And then they will look at other pairs and say, okay, I don't even know the brands of the jeans, so you know better. But they'll say this brand is better than this, and shoes, Nike, Reebok. So we have just all kinds of choices. Is that good? Not necessarily. I mean, the chooser has to be wise. We have to look at our budget, look at our purse, and buy. Same way for food. We have to decide what's good for us, what's right for us, and eat accordingly. So eat to live or not to live. This is an article published in a journal called Nutrition. I'll be happy to tell you how to get it, but I got it from my PubMed, which is the site that we scientists use. If an article is listed in PubMed, that means it's valid, it's scientific. Other places, we'll say it's just pure anecdotal. So this was an article by John Weisberger, who does have some credentials, a PhD and an MD, and he writes a whole article on how we are eating and our lifestyle is causing all the diseases today. Cardiovascular diseases, heart disease, blood pressure, tension, everything that you can think of. So live to eat. If we reverse it, then it leads to this modern epidemic of obesity. About 1 out of 3 people living here today are obese. Obese is much more than just being overweight. And it is expected, these are the statistics that I show in class, in year 2140, that's a long time away from now, if the habits don't change, everybody will be obese. That's what the prediction is. Because we are sooner or later going to succumb to all these very high-cal foods, and that's why education is so important. As I said, AMA has declared it as a true pandemic and a disease. So humans in the industrialized world live in what has been called an obesogenic environment, meaning we have foods all around us which tempt us. You know, in my lounge there where I work, there's a lounge and everybody brings cakes, candies, cookies. I've never seen carrots sitting there or fruit sitting there. Those are not very popular foods, right? Otherwise we wouldn't have a problem. Now if somebody put carrot sticks, people will say, what's wrong with these people? Why am I going to eat carrots early morning? So we want donuts. So live healthy, live a holistic life. I know my message may have been a little bit more behavioral because that's the way science is getting today. I want to also tell you that while we talk about obesity a lot, just yesterday I lectured to my class day before on bulimia. This is a disorder, I don't know if you've heard of it. Young girls are getting anorexia and bulimia. 5 million girls have it here. And what they do is they eat the food first, and then they purge. They go make themselves vomit. And then that erodes their enamel. What is this? What kind of sickness is that? So it's not just what we eat too much, and the people who are somewhat depressed or anxious, they eat more. So that's obesity. Then there are people who are too anxious, and I can't go into bulimia here today or anorexia, but it starts out with the family structure. A family that puts too much pressure on their young kids and say, perform, 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 and that's a competitive society or you're dead, that's what leads to it. That's really the root cause of many of these problems lie right there in our four walls of our family. So if you cannot live healthy, you cannot make the best of your life, that's the theme of the seminar today, you cannot fulfill the purpose of your life. After many, many years of my own struggle, I have figured out that while I'm a wife, while I'm a mother, and a daughter, and a sister, but my biggest purpose perhaps was to inspire students. And that's why I don't give up my job. My husband keeps saying it's time to retire. But it's whenever I go there, it's they who make me feel really good. It's like, oh, here she is. I have my questions, I have my this. I teach them just twice a year, but after that, they're like my friends. They're constantly, encouraging me, talking to me. So I feel like, I may not have a purpose like Mahatma Gandhi or Mother Teresa, but I may have a small part of it. So each one of us here, everyone in this room, I bet has a talent, has a purpose in their life. And if you live according to that purpose, eating right will fall into place and you will live well. So the best of your life can only happen if you do all these things. So find meaning in life or be happy, whatever makes you happy. And I don't want to promote this site again, but my assistant was looking through all kinds of sites, and I like the title here, Eat Right and Live Well. And that includes laughter. That's why I started with a joke. My husband's suggestion of starting with a joke was good. But see if you can find 10 jokes every day and laugh about it. And if you can't laugh about any joke, then go into your room, shut the doors and laugh anyway. Just a laughing yoga like the people in India are doing. The more you laugh, what happens is you release those endorphins, the feel-good hormones. And then your mind starts thinking clearly. You start thinking, yes, okay, there was a problem, my son has a problem, this has a problem, but, I can laugh it out because nevertheless, the result isn't going to change. And so, eat right, live well, and it says love God on this side. I like that because, that has been my anchor no matter how terrible a day I may have. But I am always saying, okay, you're looking out for me, God. In my house, if you have a chance to come there, tomorrow we have the satsang there. I have all these pictures of Krishna that I've painted myself. Well, that's what brought me together to God. It kind of made me feel like it was my little offering. I'll never be a Picasso, but and I don't want to be. That's not the purpose of my life. But whatever I do, it gives me happiness. That is the meaning of our life. Find something fun to do, like a hobby, laugh a lot, eat well, think right, and everything will be okay. Thank you for your time.